Good afternoon. So I'm coming to you today from the kitchen at Trondheim Lutheran Church as we reflect on our worship story. We begin this week on a new series. We will spend 4 weeks on the book of Ruth. Now the book of Ruth is only 4 chapters long, and we're actually going to be taking it chapter by chapter over the course of the next 4 weeks. I would invite you though to just sit down ahead of time and read through the story as a whole. It's an incredible story with amazing plot, evolution, and twists, and lots of layered meaning and nuances that takes us to an unexpected place at its end. But for sure, I hope that you have at least read the first chapter by now. So, as we begin this story, why am I in the kitchen? Well, in our day and age, the kitchen is the place, the house, if you will, where we keep bread. And our story today, our story for the next 4 weeks, takes place in Bethlehem. And the word Bethlehem means the house of bread. And bread, or at least the grain that makes up bread, is the backdrop, in many ways, one of the most important symbols, both literally and figuratively, of this story. See, we encounter literally famine and harvest, which leads to bread, which leads to physical sustenance, which leads to the well-being of people. But there's also a symbolic element to all of this as well, as we encounter not just famine of our physical needs, but a famine of spiritual needs in our main characters, but also the abundance that will come to them as God works powerfully, but in very, very subtle ways in this story. So we begin with one of the main characters in the story, Naomi. Naomi is married, living in Bethlehem with her husband and 2 sons, when the house of bread becomes an empty house, and there is a famine in the land, and there is nothing for them to eat. They are facing dire circumstances, and so they leave for the neighboring country, which is Moab. They are very much a refugee family, trying to find a better life for themselves. And for a while, things do go better in Moab. Their sons grow, they marry Moabite women, but it doesn't last. Naomi's husband dies, and both of her sons die. And on top of that, their sons and their wives did not have any children. And so we get this sense of incredible loss, a sense of barrenness, a sense of famine, of life for Naomi. And this is a very precarious situation. To be a widow at this time and in this culture not only leaves a woman vulnerable in terms of economic support, but it leaves them vulnerable physically. They are in real danger, especially being in a foreign land. And so Naomi makes the decision to return to her home, which is Bethlehem, and sets out with her daughters-in-law. Out of love, I think, I'm sure, Naomi tells her daughters to stay, that they will have a better life without her, that they will have a chance at the abundance that they didn't get the first time. They can remarry, they can have children, and she is not able to provide that for them. After much discussions and tears, Orpah decides to stay, but Ruth insists on going back to Bethlehem with Naomi, to her homeland. And we hear one of the most beautiful passages, I think, in the whole Bible, and probably the most familiar passage in the book of Ruth. When Ruth speaks these words, she says, "Where you go, I will go. Where you lodge, I will lodge. Your people shall be my people. Your God shall be my God. And where you die, I will die. There I will be buried." It is this beautiful and poetic testament of Ruth's love for her mother-in-law, for Naomi. And so those two travel on together and find their way back home. They are greeted by women there who remember Naomi. It doesn't sound like it's a happy greeting necessarily. They're stirred up, trying to figure out, I suppose, why she's returned. But Naomi asks them, don't call me Naomi anymore. See, the name Naomi means pleasant. And Naomi doesn't feel like life has been pleasant for her. She says, call me Mara. Mara means bitter. And that is a clue to, indeed, Naomi feels like life has been, it just has not treated her well. She does not have the abundance in her life. It has not produced a harvest, if you will, of goodness and love that she had hoped. I think we've all been in her shoes at one time or another, where life hasn't gone our way, where we have felt depleted, where it just seems it's one bad thing after another. So I'm sure that all of us in some way can relate to Naomi. And so where is the hope? Where is the hope in this first chapter? Well, I think it comes in two places. First, we get this little piece of information that God has heard his people, and there is food again, there is nourishment, there is sustenance. It's a little bit of foreshadowing into what is yet to come. But also, as Naomi is explaining to her former kinswomen that she is bitter and that life has left her barren and bereft, that standing with her quietly at that point is Ruth, this one who has proclaimed this incredible love to her. And so throughout this first chapter, we get this sense that this new abundance, that a richer harvest that is to come, it's probably going to come through Ruth. And so that is a point of hope here. But we'll have to wait. We'll have to wait until the next chapter to see how this story unfolds and to see what the surprise ending of the story is. So stay tuned. I hope you are enjoying this story as much as I have been. Have a blessed day.